Hey Jack, I'm back, and with me another speed art. This one is of the God of Thunder himself, and today I want to rank every live-action Thor film from my least favorite to my favorite. I just recently released his live-action evolution in animated form on my main channel, so while Thor is hot in my mind, I figured I'd get to this ranking. I also hope to maybe do a ranking of all his live-action suits at some point too. So, with that said, I'd love to know what you guys think, so feel free to rank the Thor movies below, or just let me know which one is your favorite. So enough gobbledygook, let's jump into it. And coming in last place is Thor's first movie, The Incredible Hulk Returns. What can I say about this film? It's definitely cheesy and works pretty well as a follow-up to the Incredible Hulk TV series, which I actually like quite a bit. I haven't watched every episode, but I've seen quite a few of them. Unfortunately, the worst part of this movie is the odd choices they make for Thor himself. They kept the Donald Blake character from the comics, who has control over him and can send him into his hammer and back out again, and he doesn't seem to be a space Viking, but just an ancient powerful Viking from Earth. The fight scene between him and the Incredible Hulk is also pretty cringeworthy and a little bit, well, it's weird. But once they team up later on, it gets a little bit more fun, but it's still a pretty clunky TV movie, so let's move on. Coming in fourth place is going to be Thor's second MCU movie, Thor: The Dark World. There's nothing particularly bad about this movie, it's just a pretty run-of-the-mill MCU with a pretty generic villain. I do like Thor and Loki's relationship here, and that's sort of what carries the film. Jane Foster becomes a pretty generic love interest here, not like the first film was much different, but having her be the character that gets infected by the Infinity Stone junk seems a little bit like lazy writing to get her more involved in the film, but nonetheless, the fight scenes are still fun and Chris Hemsworth still gives it his all. Sliding into third place is going to be Thor 2011. Thor's introduction into the MCU was probably one of the weaker origin films. While Chris Hemsworth is great in the role, this is for sure the least fun Thor movie. It has a pretty meandering pace after Thor is banished to Earth, and the love scenes between him and Jane are pretty boring. But some of the writing is good when they are talking around the fire. It's all just a little too much like Shakespeare in space to be entertaining for my own preferences. This film, like Thor: The Dark World, lives and dies on his on and off again friendship with his brother Loki, and that somewhat carries this film into a more rewatchable territory. It's also nice to see Anthony Hopkins playing Odin. He's a great actor, and the scenes where he's banishing Thor is still one of the best scenes in the series. So all in all, it's a little generic and bland, but there is some good stuff to be seen here. Coming in second place, and this might be a little controversial, but it's gonna be Thor: Love and Thunder. Yeah, it's a little sloppy and the pacing goes by like a lightning bolt in parts, but I think the good makes up for the bad. Largely, I think Jane Foster and Gore steal the show here, plus I really like Korg in the third film, so I was glad they upped his character from a side character to a more main character here. But the main reason why I put this above my previous few rankings is because I was never really bored when watching this movie, and the emotional parts in the movie I still think work pretty well. Sure, it's a little overstuffed and I want to see more gore, but as far as my own entertainment goes, I was pretty happy when I left the theater. And coming in first place has to be Thor Ragnarok. It helped to redefine Thor as a more comedic character while playing down the Shakespeareanness of the character. Also does a much better job of balancing the emotional scenes with the comedic scenes, helping to make the jokes land a little better. Plus, this teams him up with the Hulk to a great effect, and Jeff Goldblum is a national treasure and does an amazing job as the Grand Master. The action scenes are also top notch here, with the gladiator battle and the final fight with Hela being highlights of the film. Plus, the soundtrack is super nostalgic for 80s lovers, and while some people may find the comedic version of Thor a downgrade, personally I think there's more to do with his character with the comedic tinge rather than the early Shakespearean adaptations. Okay, so that's my ranking of all the Thor live-action movies. Let me know your own thoughts on the Thor films down below. And before I sign off, I want to thank my patrons. Specifically, I'd like to thank Sam Marama for joining recently. So until the next time I post on this channel, my name is Aaron, and I'll tell you something later.